Here. Executive order. First of all, are we all set to go, cable TV folks?
Hello?
All right. Well, I'm going to guess that
you are all set.
Okay,
Sorry.
then we'll start. All right. This is the Sewer and Water Commission meeting, July 27th, 2020. And I have to read some stuff before we start. Executive order on remote participation. Thursday, March 12, 2020, Governor Baker issued an order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20. That order, which was effective immediately and until is rescinded or the state of emergency is terminated. The chairman is to announce that all members will be participating remotely during the meeting due to the unprecedented time in the history of the Commonwealth. The governor has authorized remote participation for all public boards due to the emergency declaration order that was issued on March 12th, 2020. The only other thing I'd want to add is if any votes are taken, they will be taken by roll call. So with that, the first item is our reorganization item. We had our election back on, I think it was the 20th of June.
Mr. Chairman.
Re-elected, and so was John Hassinger. Yes, Patrick?
I would like to postpone the reorganization until such time as we can meet in person.
Okay. Is the rest of the board...
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? There being none, Glenn, your vote?
Aye.
John Hassenjager?
Aye.
John Spillane?
Aye.
Patrick? Patrick Fasinello? Aye or nay? Pat, did we lose you? I'll vote, Bill, voting yes. So that's, Patrick, are you there?
I'm freezing up here.
Yes.
I vote affirmative.
All right, that's 5-0-0. So we will postpone until our first in-person meeting, which our next meeting will be scheduled is August 10th. And I did see that the library trustees are having their next meeting in the community room in the library. So we'll attempt to get us meeting there in person. As I mentioned to you, I think in an email, Bernie, Scott, and I attempted to figure out how you could get 6-foot spacing with that room, and surprisingly, we couldn't. So, anyways, do we have any abatements, Mary?
We do have them. The last time Bernie signed them, after I spoke to you.
Okay.
Basically, what they are pool bills, rebates for their sewer usage for pool bills, and for overestimations because of MTU issues. If you want to give him permission again, he can sign them.
I'll ask the members of the board, do you want to allow Bernie to authorize those? Or do you wish to hold off until August 10th, which hopefully we'll be meeting in person?
I have no problem with the superintendent taking that action.
John Spillane?
Fasinello, are we voting?
I'm just asking your opinions at this point.
Fasinello, no.
No. All right. John Spillane?
No.
No. All right. And John Hassenjager?
Yes.
All right. And I don't have any objections, so that would be, we'll take an actual roll there. All those...
Well, Mr. Chairman, sorry. Oh, go ahead. Are we going to vote?
Yeah.
Okay.
All those, I'll make a motion. All of those in favor, a motion to authorize Bernie to sign the abatements until we are meeting in person.
No, I'm the one who's supposed to sign these.
they need someone to sign them, but
Yeah, Bill, actually, I'm gonna change my vote, because that is kind of a sloppy thing. If we're supposed to sign it, why don't we just off
I'm gonna
to,
change my vote also, just out of respect for the other commissioners.
yeah.
and I'll make it
Cleaner.
unanimous. Okay, so at this point, Mary, I don't think we need to take a vote. It appears that we will hold on the abatements until we meet in person.
Okay.
Again, certainly we'll attempt to get that in August 10th meeting. Minutes. Hold on one second. I'm gonna, before my dog joins the meeting. All right, up next. Sorry about that. Minutes of May 18th meeting. Do we have any changes? I have one. Mary?
Yep,
Okay, in the section labeled comment requested on page 1,
yep,
if you go to the third line from the bottom, it says, Mr. Abbott says that he assumes his fellow commissioners would that they would want. I would
Okay.
get rid of the that they would out. And then on page, the fourth page, the 16th line down, it starts off estimate of 73 million. It would be a 4.79% increase, and the total amount would be $577. That last part and the total amount would be $577. I just don't know what that. I don't recall that. Does
Okay.
anyone?
I can go back and review it.
Okay, I just, if we can't figure what it is, we could remove
Take it out.
that.
delete it?
Okay,
Anyone else have some changes to the minutes?
Move to accept the minutes.
All right, is there a second? Is there a second? Oh, second by Glenn. All those in favor, Glenn?
Aye.
John Spillane?
Aye.
John Hassenjäger?
Aye.
Patrick Fasinello?
Aye.
And Bill Abbott, aye. Okay. Superintendent status report, Bertie.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well. Just want to let you know that we've been working on the Water Management Act with Wright Pierce, and Wright Pierce has been working on our behalf with the DEP. Right now, they're compulating our mitigation strategy, and they're also including the I&I work that's been done over the years by the board, and by the town. So that's going forward, and we're hoping to meet with them in, I would say, mid-August, I believe. We've also been working on the Willets Plant Lagoon. We've cleaned the residuals out of the lagoon, the second lagoon. We will be retrofitting that with the filter fabric and the new filter fabric fiber that we have purchased to get us into compliance with the total suspended solids discharge that we've been dealt with by the EPA. We had one main break on private property. That was Rocky's Plaza. You may not have been aware of that. We've had 3 very small service leaks. And right now, just to let you know, the Scada Upgrade, Wood and Curran received that award, and they are signing that, sending it back, and they are beginning on that process. The Vfd replacement will go on combis, and the deadline of billing for that is, it's on combis, and the deadline is 8/3 for that. We're also working with Wright Pierce as far as getting the final design drawings. They're working on electric, and they're also working on some small water pipes for the removal of the residuals at the Delaney, at the sludge. So that's probably, I'd say, about 85% engineered as well. Right now, the crew's working on drain lines. They have an issue on Autumn Lane area. They've been working with the Vector truck with that, piece by piece. And also, they're working on locations for the state. They're redoing the road on Main Street. So we're doing all the locations of the gate valves, the curb boxes, making sure that we're keeping up on that. So when the time comes, they're all right there and we can get on and manipulate everything. The sewer, just to let you know, Chandler Ave and Leonard Road, those pump station upgrades, that's going on Combis on the 29th. It'll be in, I'm sorry, Central Register on the 29th. The pre-bid site walk will be August 11th. The electrical open will be August 20th, and the general contractor's bid opening will be September 3rd. So we're moving right along with these projects. We have our engineer, Ali Paran. He's looking at a possible larger pump and motor at the High Street Booster Station. We're going to try to see if we can do something. As we all know, that area has been developed over the last probably 5 to 10 to 12 years, and we think it's about time that we update that booster station to provide additional water and so on and so forth there. And that's pretty much all I have for you, gentlemen.
Okay, anyone have any questions for Bernie? Hang on, Bernie, I noticed out on Route 1, next to the property next to Meadow Bellows, there's a new development going in. I think it's labeled Sharon Park South. Do you know what's going in there?
I do not, Bill. I have not seen anything to do with that project at all, but I can certainly inquire.
Okay. We certainly know that what happens on the Meadow Bellows property can head our way, and we want to make sure.
Absolutely. I will reach out to the town. I will reach out to the town of Sharon and see if I can find out any information I need.
Okay. Next item is a Jarvis Farm permit application for the Walpole Cricket Club. I didn't know we had a cricket club, but we do. They want to use the softball field. They apparently have played there before and have found it acceptable for cricket. And they're planning on playing
Lucifer's coming
like
back.
7 Saturdays.
Because no one's gonna hear from me.
Any
My sister's
comments, questions?
I have a question.
Patrick?
Yes, have we made any progress towards providing parking, a safe and effective parking for the watershed area that this field is located in?
I'm not aware of anything that has been done. Bernie, Rick, or Scott?
There has been no movement on any type of parking at the Jarvis Farm area.
Okay. So at this point, it remains unchanged. We know that Pat, we have an interest of upgrading that. If there's no other comments, I'll make a motion that we approve the Jarvis Farm application from the Walpole Cricket Club. Is there a second?
Second.
Glenn, second? All right. Let's take a roll call. All those in favor. Glenn?
Aye.
John Spillane?
Aye.
John Hessenjager?
Aye.
Patrick?
No.
And Bill Abbott? Aye. So that's a 4-1-0 vote, Mary.
So Bill, this is supposed to be signed by you, well, by all board members. How do you want to handle this?
Well, I can stop by after this meeting and sign.
Okay. It's supposed to be all board members.
All right. Well, can the rest at least get the 3?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, can we give you authority to sign for us? I would move that.
Mary, do you think that will work?
Yes, normally I sign things in initial, but that would be great if you could do it, Bill.
All right. Patrick's made a motion that authorizing me to sign. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We'll take a roll. All those in favor. Glenn?
Aye.
John Spillane?
Aye.
John Hessenjager?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
And Bill Abbott, aye. All right, Mary, I will stop over after the meeting and sign the application. Okay, next item is, last time we met, there was a development in Dover in the area that had been affected by by the Texaco gas leak, if you recall, and there was going to be a new development that was going to be there. And as the legislation back in, I believe it was 1982, they have access to our water at in-town rates. And we had asked at that time if we could get some comment from town council. We do have something basically saying, yes, we have to do that. I was thought that we had also inquired about how we could eliminate this requirement. At this point, if we want to ask for any additional information, now would be the time we could ask if we're satisfied that, yeah, we may not be happy about it, but there's legislation dating back, 40 years, approximately 40 years, that we do have to provide to those parcels. It's limited. Len?
If I could, Mr. Chair, just one thing, Chairman. We do not have to provide to those parcels.
Yeah, I'm not interpreting it that way.
You don't have to provide to new buildings on the parcels, just the buildings that were standing in 1982. If they put more buildings on those parcels, you do not have to provide water to them.
Oh, okay.
As far as the legislation goes, unless you want to file an amendment, the legislation stays in effect forever.
Well, okay, since I misinterpreted that, then I think that we have to provide to the existing buildings that were there back in 1982. Is that your interpretation, Rick?
July 6th, 1982, any building that was standing on the parcels, you're obligated to provide water to. Any additional buildings beyond that, I do not believe you are obligated to provide water to them.
All right. Then I guess I would
If you do, you can. It doesn't say that you can't. If you do decide you want to provide water to additional buildings on those parcels, then you need the permission of the Town of Dover Board of Selectmen.
Right. And I would presume at in-town rates?
In-town rates, that's correct.
All right. So,
Let's, Bill,
to do anything, John Hassenegger.
yeah, a couple points. Since this,
John, we can see your lips moving, but can't hear you. Now I can't even see your lips moving.
is subject to Walpole Water Commission approval, and then the authority of the selectmen of Dover as well. So obviously they don't have the approval of Dover, and they're asking for your approval. But even if they got your approval to go to more than the one building, they would also have to have approval from the selectmen. So I agree with Rick's interpretation of that. I was thinking about it in terms of looking at the map. Initially, it sounded like, well, this is just one project. But essentially, if you agree to the precedent of taking one lot and converting it to 39 users, there's 9 lots up there. So actually, you could be winding up approving 360 new.
Yeah, I had looked at the, when this originally came up, and came with a similar conclusion that there would be potential a lot more.
Scenario. And
Bill, can I make a motion?
John, explain,
I'd
okay?
like to make a motion that we deny this and no more further connections up there.
All right, is there a second?
Well, for discussion, I'll second it.
services, so that it's, that scenario would be they'd pay for 39 services if that, I'm not saying we would recommend that or accept that proposal, but I'm just saying that would be more compensatory revenue to Walpole if such a scenario happened on a one-off basis. But this seems to be a little more risky than initially appeared on the surface once you look into it. And there is, I guess I would ask Rick Mattson, there's 2 other condominium projects adjacent to this already on the Medfield side. but they're still in Dover. Did we provide water to both of those condominium projects, Rick?
I believe we provide water to one of them, not the other.
I'm curious where the other one got the, in other words, as you guys probably realize, originally these homes all had wells. And because of the leak and so forth, well, if they well failed or couldn't meet the health standards, they would be able to tie that home into the Walpole water. But this goes to another level now when you're talking about many multifamilies on a single parcel. So I guess we do have outs on it. We're not really forced to do that. From what all the documents seem to be indicating, and it seems to be a more serious thing than I initially thought, just looking at the one lot, realizing what it could entail. Once you open the floodgate on that, there's 8 other parcels around it.
My comment, and I agree with John Spillane's motion that we deny it. And
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to rattle on there.
That we inform the person who sent the information to us that we're denying it. But the town meeting members have expressed a definite opinion of not being interested in providing water outside of Walpole, obviously other than where we're required because of the law. Glenn, you had seconded it for discussion.
At this point, you have all covered my thoughts, so I'll agree with John Spillane's motion, and I would say we could forward this language along and say that the town of Walpole does not intend to supply water, or will not be supplying water to the town of Dover development.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Patrick?
if you look at correspondence 1, our attorney on the first line says that the town of Walpole may supply water, just like our director said, and it's not must or shall, and therefore I don't see what advantage the town of Walpole gets supplying water to the town of Dover if we don't have to. And besides, we have to take in regard the water withdrawal permit. I don't even know how that comes into play if we're providing water to other towns. So I'm going to vote in the negative with
Can you
John.
reiterate the motion again, Mr. Chairman?
Right. John, correct me if I'm mistaken, but that the commission is opposed to providing water to the development in Dover beyond what's required by the law that was written in 1982.
I wouldn't do it.
Okay. All right. That's the motion. Take a roll. Glenn?
Aye.
John Spillane?
Aye.
John Hassenjager?
Aye.
Patrick?
Aye.
And Bill Abbott? Aye. Okay.
I can say aye.
All right. Next item is just the revenue shortfall chart again. The only thing that I would make note of is the May number and the June number in this year. Instead of being down by roughly 10% as we'd had for the previous 16 months, we actually seem to be close to or maybe even a little bit above the historical average, particularly the 3 years prior. I don't know why that would have been. The only thing I can think of is that maybe with the virus, maybe there's more people working from home or maybe not working at all. It'll be interesting. I wouldn't say that 2 months would establish a trend, but it'll be interesting to see what the result from July will be, which we should have that information at our next meeting to see, are we going back to normal, which would be good revenue-wise, or is there just some blip that occurred in May and June? We do know that in June, at the last meeting, Bernie told us about a couple of days that we were over 4 million gallons per day, and another day we came, with a couple hundred gallons of being over 400. So anyways, it's more of a red notice unless anybody has any questions on it. Hearing none. The next one is just the update again, how our revenue is going. And as you're all aware, we did not meet our targeted revenue for both either water and sewer. And now there was another, I thought I had another item here. Oh, I did, sorry. Okay, correspondence number 4. This is the FY 20 water and sewer revenue. The town accountant, I assume she has closed out the books, but when I wrote this, she had almost completed it, and we had a water deficit of $362,000, give or take a few, and a sewer deficit of approximately $596,000. These both deficits will be made up from our retained earnings. As far as the water is concerned, we have to keep in mind that really what we've taken out between what we voted to use 400,000 in the rates plus this 362,000 estimate, we're shrinking our water retained earnings by 762,000. And in the case of our sewer, we didn't use any sewer retained earnings, but the deficits we're removing 592,000, give or take, from our 2.1 sewer retained earnings. There is a concern of being dependent on using retained earnings. It's not something that we can continue to do. Obviously, if you keep dipping into that, fund will go to zero. And we don't want to go to zero because there could be circumstances where you end the fiscal year with a deficit and it has to be made up with the retained earnings. So you don't want it to end up being zero. And certainly with the way the economy appears to be making maybe a downturn, I think it's important that we monitor this as we go along. And if things look like that we're going to be in trouble, we may have to make some sort of adjustments mid-year.
Bill?
John?
Just a response to your narrative. I think that the good thing is, or the opportunity side of that is that you do have the Pulte project coming online now, and you have the Cochrane project coming online now, and the LaRusso project coming online now, and the one down there in what's the industrial park project down by you, Bill? And Dr.
The
Renmar project.
Right.
Those are 800 new customers right there.
That would help us with the revenue that as they get filled up. I don't know how fast the one by the train station, I know that there has been some people moving in. I don't know about Liberty Village. I know in the case of Pennington Crossing, I think there might be like 10 or 12 people, but there was 4 buildings and they seem to have stopped building the last 2. But you're right, there is a possibility for growth. But one thing, if you look at the water revenue on that little chart, if you look at new entrance fees for 2018, that was over $1 million. 2019, it was 865,000, and then in 2020 it was only 25,000. Rick, do you know when are these people paying for their entrance fees? Would they
at the time they apply for building permit?
So that would have been explained why we had in the 2018 and 19 time frame, over $1 million and 800,000. So there could be the opportunity for some substantial entrance fees that could help.
Once you stand to gain in entrance fees are the other 2 Pennington buildings,
right,
and the age qualified on Renmar.
Okay.
And then we would have the one down on 55 Summer Street following that, probably.
Right. There's another Dookie in, I believe tonight the zoning board's going to be talking about one in Pinnacle Point and the Burns Ave. I don't believe we've got any money there. But anyways, I think the important point is in the past we had our rates did not cover our projected amounts, and we were really bailed out by the new entrance fees. And of course, in fiscal 2020, as you can see, where it dropped dramatically from what we'd had in the previous years, and then we ended up with a deficit. So it's anyway, we just want to keep monitoring it so that we can take action if needed. John Hassenjager?
Yeah, it would be, I think I asked this before, but I would ask either Rick or Bernie again to talk to sister communities about this phenomenon to see if we can determine some cause of this. Maybe there's something, if this is similarly going on in Sharon, Foxborough, Rentham, Westwood, what have you, or is this a phenomena unique to Walpole, the decline in per household gallonage. I think that's worth looking into. Another thing for the next meeting, I would request, Mr. Chairman, that there's been quite a bit come out the last 2 weeks about lead in drinking water in Eastern Massachusetts. And the MWRA has a number of articles about it. And there seem to be concerns about solutions to controlling, eliminating, and measuring lead in drinking water in these towns. And I think maybe our staff should look into this and see if there's anything we need to be concerned about or any mitigation we need to do to protect the residents of Walpole vis-a-vis lead in drinking water. There's a program, and I think if Patrick, I don't know if they're having any MWR meetings, but they have several promotional pieces come out about this, what to do about it, and precautions and programs and so forth. So it'd be something we possibly could look into just as to be up to date on consumer concerns.
Mr. Chairman?
Patrick?
MWRA does have a lead remediation program. And I did ask them about that, and they would gladly check any samples we sent them for free of charge. That's what the advisory board chairman did tell me. So at least we can get on that part, the testing part, if we felt that we had a lead problem.
Glenn, I believe you wanted to.
Well, yeah, I was going to comment on the budget, but I feel like maybe we shouldn't brush by the lead question. Does the superintendent just want to address that real quick?
Yes, sir. As far as historic, you've done a very, very good job in lead and copper, and I'm sure that Rick and Scott can also add to the history. But I don't believe that Walpole has had a very big issue. I think there was some remediation done in some of the schools. And to my knowledge, I believe that that Walpole is very well set as far as lead and copper in the drinking water.
Scott,
how would you go about sampling the town for that, Bernie? What would you do? Like take samples from different homes and different buildings, or what?
There's a DEP requirement for lead and copper, and I believe it's every 3 years, and I believe it's next year that we're up to do that sampling. But I can be corrected if that's wrong.
We sample on a regular basis from various locations throughout the town, anyways, for all sorts of chemicals.
That's correct. That's correct, but lead and copper is a special program, and it's done historically either in it's usually in 3-year increments, and it's either. I was in a community that had to do 60 samples, and I don't believe Walpole has to do 60. I believe it possibly could be 30, and I think, like I said, I think you're well within compliance of the lead and copper rule.
I think you have to be 90% by EPA of below 15 parts per billion.
That's for reporting purposes. You're absolutely right, John.
But the state, I think the Massachusetts or maybe it's the MWR has a higher standard. They ask 95%.
No, we go by this, we go by the federal drinking water regulations. Lead is measured at the 90th percentile.
Yeah. So I
your,
guess
your lead value is measured for Walpole at the 27th sample. If your 27th sample is under the action level for lead of 15 parts per billion, then you are in compliance. Walpole was one of those communities at one time that had to do the 60 samples. That was just how the program was. When you achieve compliance for 3 consecutive years, you can request reduced monitoring, which is what we did. We made the request, they reduced our obligation to monitor to once every 3 years at 30 selected sites throughout the community. So that's how we do it. It's all in compliance with the Safe Drinking Water Act, the lead and copper rule of the EPA, and the Mass DEP, which is the same regulation. So we are well, as Bernie said, we are well within compliance. Now, back in the 80s and 90s, before we built the treatment plant, we were not. We had an issue. We built the treatment plants. The water is chemically adjusted. The pH is proper, and the leaching of the lead and copper has stopped.
so.
Absolutely. Thanks, Rick.
Going to the 3-year program, it doesn't save us any money if this.
No, I'm sorry, John, I didn't get that, but it's got nothing to do with money. Lead samples are relatively inexpensive to do. They're $15 a piece.
Yep.
So it's not about money. It's about complying with the state and federal drinking water regulations, which we do.
Yeah, and
If
I
you look in the water quality reports that we just recently sent out, look at the lead and copper chart, and it explains the whole program in depth. Now we put a notice in there it's language that's required by the EPA, regardless of whether you pass the program or not. So that language is in there, is not because we have a problem, it's because it's required by law.
So if other towns have come up with this issue, that's more or less idiosyncratic to them and their wells. That wouldn't necessarily say if they were upstream of Walpole, we should be concerned. Because we have our own pipes, it's likely to come from our own pipes as opposed from the well or the aquifer.
That's correct.
The thing about lead is it doesn't naturally come out of the ground. It's created typically by water that is acidic in nature. And what happens is the old brass fittings or a lead pipe or lead solder will leach into the drinking water over an extended period of time. So it's not something that we pump out of the ground. It's something that's typically caused by a lack of treatment, which is why it's an action level and not a maximum contaminant.
I agree.
Action you need to take it when it exceeds a certain level.
Is right on.
Any further discussion on lead? All right. So policy review number 1, request for bill adjustment, 54 Anderson Way. I don't see why we would give them any money back or do anything. If they have a problem, I would suggest they go after the person who connected them up improperly. And then we can issue a look at about the fines that we levied. But
I agree, Mr. Chairman. I think that this was more than fair. I think they had more than they had communication from Walpole Water, and I don't believe that they took the initiative to take care of the issue at hand.
So I agree, Mr. Chairman. I did notice there's a line in here that sounds like he's asking for a hearing, and I think if a resident is asking to appear before us, that we should give him the opportunity to come and hopefully present something more prepared than what he has sent in this email. But I think he's asking for reconsideration. I'm not saying we have to give him I think we should at least hear him out, is all I'm saying.
all right, Mary, we'll try and get this, our next meeting, hopefully at the, maybe the library, community room there. And, if we are able to get them in person or have the meeting in person, we could ask the person to come in and they can state their case. All right, John Hassenjäger? Nope.
I'm sorry, just.
Okay.
I'm good.
Your microphone. The last item is our discussion item, the 2020 Fall Annual Town Meeting warrant. The reason I bring it up is it closed, the selectmen opened it up. They set a close date of August 18th. Our next meeting would be our only chance other than tonight if we wish to do anything, because our next meeting will be August 10th. The only thing that I'm aware of are actually possibly two things. One, we did have an article for your asset management program, Bernie, and I think the intent at town meeting and during the spring was to carry that forward. Does the board wish to continue that? Bernie, do you wish to continue with that?
I was gonna ask what the board thought. I would absolutely I would champion the idea of going forward with this, and I'm hoping that the board would back me on that.
As I remember, it was small money. It might have been like all total of like $70,000. So it's not anything that's going to break the budget. Any other comments?
We still have access to the grant?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Yeah,
then we do it.
And then, yeah, we do, Glenn. And I believe if we can act accordingly with town and get it approved through town meeting, I believe the money should still be there. I will definitely check on the dates before you reconvene on your next meeting.
Okay. Assuming that, and I think the dates were like in November, and the town meeting will be meeting in October. But
I believe you're right, Bill.
To get a sense of the board, all those in favor of, I'll put a motion. Motion to support an article for the asset management program on the fall town meeting warrant. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Glenn seconds. All those in favor, Glenn?
Aye.
John Spillane?
Aye.
John Hassenjäger?
Aye.
And Patrick Fasanello?
Aye.
And Bill Abbott, aye. Okay, the other thing that I've heard mentioned, I think between Bernie and maybe Rick has mentioned, we had a problem with one of the filters in the Delaney plant that we had to, rebuild or rehab. And there was concern that all the filters are the same age. Did we want to do something? Do we need to do something between now and the spring to address that?
I do have a few things that I'd like to address for this year's capital for upcoming 2021. It is the other 6 filters at the Delaney, because we know that 2 of those filters needed to be taken care of with the age that they're all the same. So we ran the numbers, and it appears that it's going to cost to $386,000 for the additional 6 to be done. Also, we'd like to continue with the Scada upgrade. That's at a price of $550,000. We're looking for a generator replacement for our Washington 6 well, and to be able to be used at Washington 6 in the Old Post Road booster station. And meter transmitters, we have to continue with that program as well. And then I have one other asking, and we may not necessarily need it. It's a conventional cleaning of the raw water mains that feed the Willets plant. We're actually taking a proactive stance on that. We're putting in flushing hydrants along that route, which is I would say it's probably about 1.5 miles of water main. I may be mistaken it a little bit off on the lengths, but if we can actually flush conventionally the way that I'd like to see it, and I've talked to Phil, I've talked to Rick about this. We're gonna try our own method and see if we can eliminate a contractor coming in. But the contractor, to do that, I have a quote of $225,000. So that would be my 5th asking as far as the capital improvement for 2021.
Would there be a combination of retained earnings and borrowing, I'm assuming, to accomplish that?
We could definitely kick that around, Glenn. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to hear.
That,
Yeah, they typically wouldn't borrow those amounts. They're too small. If we did all of those improvements, Glenn, there would probably be some borrowing involved. I would suggest, based on where I think capital is going, that we even try to phase the filters in, maybe do 3 next year, and then 3 the year after. So we get them on different cycles.
Yep.
And then moving forward, we can maintain them as we go along. Also with the generators, I would probably split those out too and go for the Washington 6 generator. But beyond that, I don't think you should tap too much into your retained earnings. The 550 for the Scada, that's a big nut. And
So the goal would be to do no borrowing potentially and to phase in some of these out of and pay.
Right, I wouldn't do any borrowing until the debt drops off, which is, I believe, is next year.
Yeah. My only thing that we should remind ourselves of is that we did not put any capital into the rates for this fiscal year, which doesn't mean that things, we do have an opportunity at the fall town meeting. And if something like the Delaney filters, if that's a top priority, and that without, if they go, cause a problem, we have a problem, meeting the demands, water demands. Maybe if we could put on the our agenda for the next meeting, just to firm up if there's anything beyond the asset plan that we want to put on the fall town meeting, and if we want to add things, what's the priority order and what we really want to do, keeping in mind that we don't want to tap the water retained earnings too hard. So
we're going to have to decide at the next meeting.
Pardon me?
We're going to have to make a decision. We're going to hear at the next meeting and decide at the next meeting.
Yeah, this will give a chance that they can. We've heard, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items. Give a chance to provide the information in our package for the next meeting, and with a prioritized list there.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Fasinello.
concerning the hydrants on the water supply line to the treatment plant, why can't we use town forces to put those hydrants in?
That's exactly what we're doing, Patrick. That's exactly what we're doing. We're being proactive in that we've already placed the first one, and we're working I have 4 different locations, so one's been done. There'll be 3 more placed, and then we'll know how we can attempt to clean that water line out. I simply can't give you that information at this time.
So the idea, we intend to try and clean the raw water lines ourselves, and if it's successful, then we won't have to spend $225,000 doing it. It's probably cost something, but if we can successfully do it ourselves, we'll save a fair amount of money.
Thank you.
Okay, that completes our agenda. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
That's the Fasinello aye.
Stay
Glenn,
cool, gentlemen.
Aye.
Stay cool.
John Spillane,
Aye.
and John Hassenegger,
Aye.
and myself, aye. And we're right. Everybody stay cool. It's hot. All right, and I will try to